Wow, lighting is really off today. Let's see. Get that a little bit better. Studio lights and reflectors are upstairs. I literally just got indoor, ran down to the computer, and just tried to set this up. So I am not prepared. Tylenol, much needed. Oh, hopefully that'll take care of the headache. Wayne Smith, afternoon. Afternoon, sir. Good to see you there. Okay, hopefully I have everything set correctly. And we are here for the November live stream. Wayne might need to pee soon. Might. Well, if you got to do it, you got to do it. I'm not saying, just find something to go in while you're watching this, or not saying take your phone with you so you can keep watching, but do what you got to do, sir. Well, it's been a month since we last did our live stream from the bank in October, which turned out to be something else, as a matter of fact. Dave, afternoon. Yeah, able to get what turned out to be a 27-pounder live for the camera on our live stream in October. That was a pretty spectacular moment. Really, really happy that you guys were able to share that with me. Let me turn the notifications down because my phone has been blowing up all morning, and there is a reason why. So I will probably touch on that shortly. Turn all those down. But yeah, we were lucky enough to get an awesome fish during the live stream. Also, it was during the SSF for the fall campaign of the Canadian Carp Society, and that 27-pounder actually had quite an impact. Let me just move this screen over here. I'm just going to go over to the Canadian Carp Society website right now and into the SSF tab. If you remember, you know where all this information is. If you're not, why not? Fix it. Okay. So looking at the leaderboards for the Canadian Carp Society's fall SSF, that 27-pounder was the last upgrade fish that I was able to get during that time for Team Savage. Myself, Kevin, and Dave making up Team Savage. Through the course of that week, we all caught. It just so happens that the four biggest were the ones that I had kind of right at the end there. It started out with a bang, Dave and I catching really well at the YouTube Blogger Social that took place the week before the live stream in October. And if you haven't already, there is a massive 3-hour video up of that YouTuber's social. And that's the trimmed down one. I'll be honest with you. I could have made that 5 hours with the footage I had. I trimmed it down to 3. Almost all the other YouTubers that were there have their videos up already for you to see. And I've actually made a playlist. So later on when you're on the channel, this channel, go into the playlists that I have. And there is a playlist that has all of the YouTube social videos from that event put together. And then the 2 that haven't been completed yet, once those channels get theirs up, I'll add those into the playlist. So you'll be able to watch everybody's perspective from that event. Monster Carp Tackle, good to see you there. You weeded out all the small ones. Yes, Dave, you did weed out the small ones, but you absolutely crushed me with numbers. I can't believe you had so many bites. It was ridiculous. And fishing side by side, that was something. So mine's over 3 hours. The Monster Carp Tackle video is just over an hour and 20 minutes, something like that. The other videos are a fair bit shorter, but capture all the key highlights of the event and the energy that was there. That was such an incredible trip, and I can't wait to do it again with that group. Hopefully add a couple more in, like we talk about in the videos, for two of them that couldn't make it. But it was something spectacular. It was absolutely spectacular. Team carp fishing. When in the world did you find the time to edit a 3-hour video? In between all the other projects that I'm working on, believe it or not. I was editing this morning. I'm working on a big project for the Canadian Carp Society, and I'm actually editing 2 big videos at the same time with that, on top of the stuff that I'm editing for the Anglophiles, as well as obviously, family life, full-time job, barking dog. She was asleep a minute ago. I haven't been fishing in 2 weeks, and so I had a little bit of time to spare. Managed to basically spend, I think, about 4 days on and off cranking through that edit, and turned out to be 3 hours. And I think Nathan from Improved Carp Angling kind of summed it up the best way, and I'm really grateful that he summed it up this way. But he said what I hoped I achieved, and that was to capture the real essence of what that trip was, with everything that was there. The silliness, the camaraderie, the just everything great about that trip made it into the video. And that 2 hours of footage that I cut, really, you could watch that 2 hours and it's just us being us. And I think it would have just dragged it out a little bit too long, but incredible way to start off the SSF. Obviously we got back from that trip, and the SSF continued for that full week. So I went and I hit up another spot that I touched on in the October live stream. A few days prior, had a few fish, but then moved locations because the fish I was getting weren't of the stamp that I needed. Picked a new location that I had been pre-baiting. Hard cheese. Hi from the UK. Hi back from Canada. I love cheese. I absolutely love cheese. Anyway, distracted by cheese now. I moved to this location I'd been pre-baiting and promptly got into some really quality fish, one of which was a 23.5 pounder. I did several sessions there, no more than 4 hours at a time over the next couple of days in that spot, and that's what produced the 31 pounder that I talked about in the last live stream, another 23, several 20s, and also that 27 that we caught live during the October live stream. And that put us up to 104.5 pounds in the leaderboards. Now that tied us with the Battersbys, the Battersby brothers, Adam and Ben, who also had 104.5 pounds. They got into some really good fish kind of halfway through that week and jumped ahead of us. They actually bumped us down like 3 spots because they got into such quality fish. So luckily those bigger ones that I had at the end there were able to kind of bring us right back up and match us up with them. But because Team Savage had that 31 and the Battersby brothers had their biggest fish as a 28, the big fish kind of bumped us ahead. So even though we had the same weight, we moved ahead in the standings to take 4th place because we had the bigger fish out of the 4, with the Battersby brothers dropping down to 5th. And you know what? If we were going to be tied up with a team, what a team to be tied up with. Those guys fished their socks off and did really, really well. I'm very proud of them. And I'm happy to kind of share that spot with them between Team Savage and the Battersby brothers. Now, we didn't quite get enough to go up to first, even though we led for quite a while there. For the first few days, we were right on top there at Team Savage. But, we were overtaken pretty quickly by Team Cornwalrus. We were a little bit back and forth with them, and then they were back and forth with the Battersbys. They did an impressive 111.5 pounds. Bumping them down was Team And in last place, which didn't hold to their name. They squeaked out 3 pounds heavier than Team Cornwallers for second place. And then the Prairie Slayers, Paul Anthony and Ryan, they spanked us. They spanked everybody with 141 pounds for their biggest 4 fish. I don't think it's going to get better than that. Fat Boys Fishing. Hey, John, cold day on the bank today, November carp in southern Ontario. Yeah, I saw. Don't know how to take that, to be honest with you, Jeff and Dave. I have some opinions about that session today with the live streams and the photos that have gone out. Sorry to say, but upset me a little bit. I'm not going to get into that right now because I really don't want to. And I'm really hoping not to be negative, but I'm having trouble containing that right now. Hard Cheese. I fished Young's Point for carp back in the 90s. Absolutely loved that place. Young's Point. That sounds familiar. I'm not sure why I know it. Kachwanuka. That would be why I've heard it. There you go. I've not been up there in forever, probably since my early 20s. Anyway, moving on because I'm going to get worked up. The SSF went incredibly well. So many teams. There was 13 teams that were entered on the leaderboards, 12 of which actually produced fish. I'm assuming because the 13th team didn't have enough team members, so didn't actually compete. So out of the 12 teams, 11 teams produced 4 fish for their 4 biggest. The 12th team produced 3 quality fish. So when you look at it, out of 4 fish, if the team that finished at the bottom still had over 50 pounds, everybody had a good stretch for the SSF. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was 6 teams out of those 12 that finished over the 100-pound mark. That 16 being Sean and Alicia Martin from Carping with the Martins. They had 102 pounds. So this was out of the 3 SSFs that have happened, spring, summer, fall. This one produced some serious weights, and I have to say the positivity over the course of that week with the way the social media was, everybody talking to each other, it was just incredible. It was incredible. Utilizing the social media platform on the Canadian Carp Society website, everybody sharing their captures and their techniques, and it was just, it went from awesome in the spring to pretty awesome in the summer to holy crap, whole other level for the fall. So I'm already excited for next year, and I really can't wait to enjoy that. Let's see, I did put together a bit of a list. Then I had to run out and go do some errands, and it didn't really work out the way I planned to have more stuff figured out because I was also doing a lot of editing this morning. My notes, one of the things on my notes says etiquette. I'm a little bit frustrated this morning just because a spot that I had been baiting up, Kevin and I had put a lot of work into. We fish public spots. That's kind of the name of the game in Ontario and here in Canada. If you're not part of the Canadian Carp Society, you wouldn't see some of the articles that I've written earlier in the year based on a situation that happened in the spring where we had been working a spot very hard. We had been starting to get fish. Somebody else found out that we were actually having some good progress there, moved in on our bait, and produced a massive fish off of our bait while we weren't there. And, then had the nerve to invite us to our own spot. That was really, really depressing, and that was a hard blow. And that's what led to me mentioning earlier in the season that I kind of wanted to drop off the radar a bit, hide a bit, find some secret spots that I can just settle into and not be bothered. It's a big part of why I filmed probably a third of the videos and social media stuff that I would normally do in a year. I haven't filmed, other than that YouTuber social, I haven't filmed anything since September. Um, I've got a lot of videos in the bank to kind of carry us through the winter time and keep with our schedule, but I've not been filming anything new because of these scenarios that have really kind of gotten under my skin, where, people know that you're fishing in a spot. That's one thing. Like I said, it's public. If they know you're in a spot, okay. Simple message, hey, have you been putting bait in there in that spot? We don't want to interrupt what you're doing. I had a cold water campaign kind of planned there, and I booked the Monday and Tuesday coming. So today's Saturday. Tomorrow's Sunday. I'm going to be editing. Monday, Tuesday, I booked off work about a month ago, just after the SSF, to have a bit of a cold water campaign in a spot that I really wanted to go to, that I've been putting a lot of effort in, baiting up, had some good fish, Kevin as well. And that was kind of going to be our spot for the upcoming couple of days I had off. Reg has spent some time there with me, and when you work hard at a spot and somebody that knows you're there or has an idea that you're there just moves in and then starts catching on your bait, it's very disheartening. It's very difficult, and as I said, it gets me really worked up. And I apologize if I've kind of gotten onto a negative tone or maybe pointed somebody out that maybe I could have been more discreet about. It's a difficult thing for me to handle. I'm somebody that kind of likes to try and keep everything honest, and this is how I am, and that's the big thing about the videos is just honesty, and this is how it is, and this is what's going on, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm thinking. I struggle to contain that when sometimes I need to, and sometimes my frustration gets out, and sometimes it gets out directed at the people that it should be. So I apologize. But there's a certain level of etiquette that needs to come into play here, where if you have an idea that maybe somebody can fish in a spot, they've been baiting it, and you want to get in on that action, I completely understand. But shoot that person a message. Hey, you've been putting some work in here. Do you mind if we fish there? Don't want to interfere with what you're going to be doing. It's obviously it's not something that the person has to do, but it's a certain level of etiquette that needs to come into play to be respectful. Why step on somebody else's hard work? None of us like that. To go with that, when all of a sudden you're getting ready to go spend a couple of days on a spot where you're working really hard to kind of get it going and keep it going into the cold water season, and then all of a sudden you see photos posted and videos posted completely blowing up where you were going to be. Yeah. So now the 2 days that I had booked off and had been planning on working on for over a month, that's out the window. I need to go somewhere else in cold water with an upcoming cold front that's pushing in today over the course of the next week. And I don't know what to do, because there's not enough time to pre-bait and really get the fish going. So I'm probably going to end up spending 2 days blanking despite my efforts. So please keep this in mind. And I know this doesn't necessarily apply to areas outside of Canada where you do have private lakes and you can kind of go into managed fisheries. But, in Canada, that's one thing that we have to deal with is we all fish public water. And while we can't say to a person, just don't go there, because you don't have that say. If it's not your property, you can't say that. All we can say is, please utilize some etiquette. If you know somebody's there, check in with them. Please. If I wasn't going to be there for 2 more weeks, I wouldn't have had a problem. It would not have impacted what I was planning on doing. But a couple of days, yeah, that's a bit of a kick in the nuts, I'm afraid to say. So I really want to get off this topic, but please utilize some etiquette. Some angling etiquette goes a long way, and unfortunately, in most genres of fishing, it's an issue. Everybody wants that great capture, but wants to put a lot less work in to get it. Those of us that are putting in the work and that just shut up and fish. We're getting stepped on by decent people too. That's the hard part. Decent people that just made a poor decision, I'm afraid. How is everybody else doing? How is the start to your autumn gone? Has anybody else really been crushing it? Has anybody switched tactics? Through the course of this season, I know a lot of people have been using new baits that they wouldn't normally try. Some people switching from boilies to tiger nuts, some people cutting their particle use in half. Everybody's having different results in their different respective waters. Has everybody actually been doing well? Have you had the season that you thought you were going to have? Has it gone better than you thought? Has it gone, I don't want to say worse, but less than what you thought? Just curious. As I mentioned, I made a lot of changes to the way I was doing things this season, going off grid a bit, not filming as much. I did actually utilize boilies a lot more in my approach than I did particles. I probably cut my particle use down by 2/3 and went to more all-out boilies approaches. I think I've gone through about 20 kilos of boilies over the course of the season, whether I'm fishing them whole or chops. And despite those baiting changes, I've actually had just over 250 fish so far this season, carp, landed like to the net, to the mat, just over 250 this year, which is the best I've done since I think 2017. Let's see, Wayne Smith, switch baits mid-season, doubled his catch rate. Yeah, about that, Mr. Smith. I watched that happen, and I have to say that was incredibly impressive, to be honest with you. Your catch rate, especially when some of us are sitting right next to you, sir, that was impressive. Lost your carp tackle. Can't believe we are in the twilight of this season. Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? But there's still fish to be had, Dave. I just caught a 23-pounder that I caught earlier in the season. There's still a lot of fish to be had in a lot of spots. Some of the spots that we've kind of kept going and that we keep baited, even though there's might be a long stretch in between them, in between our visits. The fish are still there. We're moving in and having opportunities. Other spots just turn off completely. So have any of you made that baiting change, aside from Wayne, who has kind of flipped a switch and went into crush mode? Did the changes you make through your season make it last longer? I'm curious. How has everybody kind of taken note of the changes that they've made to kind of see how you're going to plan out next season? I know for me, like I said, I did a lot more boilie fishing this year, and it made an impact. For best season I've had in 4 years, despite a lot of changes. So I'm definitely going to be using a lot more boilies next year. Another thing I did is I fished with a lot less pop-ups and more wafters this season. I actually found that some of the spots that I was working really hard, I would get liner after liner indication like crazy with no hookups or very quick dropped runs, and simply switching from a pop-up to a wafter converted that into hookups. That made a massive difference, and something that I wouldn't have thought, because I tend to more use wafters when it's colder, not so much when it's still warm. But it made a difference. I went from getting 1 a session to 4 a session just by taking, I like to put 3 different baits. So a pop-up, a bottom bait, and a wafter. The bottom baits and the wafters are going. Take off the pop-up, put another wafter on. So I got 2 wafters and a bottom bait, all 3 go. It's something that you really need to take note of when that sort of thing is happening. And I think that's going to have a major impact on my season next year. A lot more wafter fishing, a lot more boilies. Uh, I'll probably stick with the same amount of particle that I used this year. So not a lot, but just enough to help bulk out everything else and have those differences in my bait mix. One thing that I did not use this year, I think maybe I used it at the very start of the spring, and I used it a fair bit last year. I like to put condensed milk into my mixes when I'm fishing clear water, just to kind of have that milky residue through the water column. Use that in the spring. I typically would use it in the summer, but I didn't use it this summer. And there was a small stretch where I had a lot more small fish. It was after I stopped using that condensed milk in my spod mix. A lot less big fish, a lot more small fish, with a little bit less consistency than it would normally be. So I think next year I'm going to use the condensed milk in my spod mix a lot more through the summer to see if that ups the catch rate again and brings the big ones back in. But yeah, when it got really hot there through the summer, especially through the summer SSF, so July, a little bit into August, I wasn't getting the size of fish that I typically would have been that time of year. A lot more smaller fish, but still a good average. Mid doubles is a really good average. So Mr. Smith has changed his baiting approach. Dave at Monster Carp Tackle, did you make a change? Paul from Team Carp Fishing, any adjustments to your baiting approach? I'm curious. Typically, I wouldn't make the big changes that I did this season. I kind of did it out of what I thought was necessity, and it had an impact. So did anybody else step up and try that? There's stuff going on all over the house. Can't keep track of everything. Everybody's quiet. The chat's not as crazy as it normally is. And I think that's probably because, can I repeat the question? I went to pee. Figures. Mr. Smith, I was just asking everyone, given the changes that I made to my season, the changes to the baiting approaches, did anybody else do that or make a significant change that had such an impact that it's going to affect their fishing next year? Hard cheese, fruit flavor massively worked better than the fish meals for me on your rivers. Yeah, for sure. Over here, especially on the rivers, fruits are the way to go. Pineapple is king in Canada. That's not to say that the fish meals won't catch fish. They certainly have their time and their place, but yeah, if you were to, a couple years back, I tried CC Moore's Pacific tuna when we were first able to get it over here. Caught really well. Caught a few catfish with it, which is to be expected, but I did catch really well with it, but nothing of size. As soon as I went back to the fruity baits, I started getting the bigger fish again, which is funny because, our bigger fish tend to chase minnows and eat the zebra mussels and crayfish and stuff like that. You'd think the fish meals would target the bigger fish a little bit more, but just wasn't the case from my experience. I think all of my biggest fish this season came on fruity baits, whether it be pineapple or pink pineana was a really good one for me this year. Then the last fish I had it was 18 pounds I had 2 weeks ago. Very cold, wet morning fishing with Reg. That one was on a peach and sour cream. It was a DT baits. First time I'd used that one. I got my hands on a whole bunch of DT baits, pop-ups from Carp Kit. Simon had just got in a new bait line, and we all know I have a bit of an addiction with baits and pop-ups and stuff. So despite my drawers and drawers full of mainline and dynamite and all these other bait companies that I've got their baits from, Hinders and stuff like that I got last year, all of a sudden I see this new product line of DT baits and I had to try it. So I grabbed up a whole bunch, and yeah, the peach and sour cream wafter, or no, peach and sour cream pop-up. It's very much this color, it's like a dark brown. I put that on a snowman presentation and had me a really, really good fish after a hard blank the day before in really tough conditions. It was raining a lot. It was very, very soupy out there. It was cold. The fish were not rising at all. Reg and I fished 2 mornings together in a particular spot. He had a cranking run right before I left the day before, after I blanked with a few liners, and that was it. Went back the very next day, and I got there a little bit earlier, made sure I was set up a little bit sooner, had liners on all 3 rods at this point, switching to bottom baits and wafters. And it was the peach and sour cream from DT that got me the fish first time I had used it. And that was being fished in between 2 baits that had produced in that spot consistently for several weeks prior. So I went from having these 2 baits being absolutely killer to putting out something I had never used before, and that's what caught the fish. So that was pretty impressive. And yeah, I think that's exactly what Wayne was talking about when he mentioned that he switched his baits and doubled his catch rate. He went to something new, just as I did there, and he has had my eye on him all season with the fish that he's been catching. Hard cheese, DT Green Beast is a killer bait in the winter. That's what I keep hearing. I keep seeing the ads for it in Total Carp magazine. I've been, ever since I grabbed them from Carp Kit, because now that we can get them, if Simon's got them on Carp Kit, I'm probably going to get it, bait-wise. So I've been digging around on the website for DT baits, checking out everything to find out what I can about them. And we don't have Green Beast here yet, but once he's got it, I'm definitely going to try that. The information I've looked up on that was really impressive. A lot of people saying that is the way to go in cold water. 334 outdoors. I'm late. You are 32 minutes late. It's okay. I forgive you. I just figured that the whole reason the live stream was somewhat quiet was because you weren't here. So I'm glad you're here now. The blackcurrant menthol flavor. Oh my. That would explain why. Okay, interesting. Menthol. I never would have thought about that. Monster carp tackle, just baiting less and more accurately lately. More wafter-like. Okay, so you've made the change for cold weather, which most people would find typical. Baiting a lot less. The accurate thing is interesting. I'll be honest with you, this year I did not fish accurately, I think, at any of my spots, as I rarely do. Pretty much like to just pub chuck bait out there and make sure I'm fishing. But I do know a lot of people have put a significant effort into fishing accurately, and it's made a difference. And there was 2 sessions in particular this season that I did fish incredibly accurately. Actually, Dave was able to witness it when he visited a couple times. Wayne was with me to watch it happen. The stretch I think I talked about earlier in the season where I was actually able to walk out in my waders, right up to the top of the waders, and hand place my baits, which I'd never done before. We did 2 sessions this season where I did that in that spot, and it got so frantic that I was actually getting fish on before I was all the way back to the shore. I was about halfway back, walking back, letting line out, and all of a sudden, I've got a fish on already. I'd never experienced hand placing a rig before that. Never really put that much effort into fishing that accurately before, and what a difference it made. So I do think that maybe not so much for the cold weather, but certainly for next year, I'm going to put a little bit more effort into fishing accurately. Actually, I can't get over the whole pub juck idea. So I'll probably do 2 rods where I'm just fishing my normal way. But one rod, I'm probably going to put a little bit more effort into making sure that it's on a spot and baited tightly, just to see if that changes my catch rate next year. 334 outdoors. Heading out to fish now. Good for you. The only reason I fish accurately is one of my spots is fishing a 12-foot drop 3 feet off the bank. Yeah, you kind of want to make sure that that's somewhat accurate. I guess you can basically just reach out and drop it straight down, right? Margin fishing, especially when you got deep margins, that's so much fun though. Yeah, up until my last session out was, what is today? Today's the 13th. So my last session would have been Halloween when I had that 20-pounder with Reg, or 18-pounder. And yeah, that was in less than 10 feet of water, about 2 rod lengths out. 334 outdoors. Can you take your weather back? Dude, it was snowing here this morning. I've got my weather. I woke up this morning and went upstairs to grab a coffee, and it was snowing outside. Wet, wet snow. It's frosted more this month than all of last winter. Yeah, that happens. Winter. Just accept it. Just become one with the cold. You know, it's just how it's got to be. Global cooling. Are you done barking? You got food and you got water, and I'm just not in a position for cuddling right now. She's having a day. The old girl can't see. She can't hear hardly. So if I'm not right there cuddled with her, she's having a bit of trouble. It was 75 yesterday. Tonight it'll freeze. 75. That's like over 20 degrees here. That's insane. Yeah, we do Celsius. It's different. So you know what? I'll tell you what. To answer your question, I'm not taking my weather back. I got my weather. What you got is yours. You keep it. Here's one question for you. Given that typically you're fishing warmer situations, have you found that the frost and the cold that's hitting you has had an impact on your catch rate? Or have you noticed that maybe after a cold snap, it gets better? There's a question for you. While we're waiting for his answer, if he's got one. I have to say, I've been spending a lot of time editing lately. I touched on that briefly a little while ago. So much effort, just going over footage, cutting, rewatching. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in my world that's keeping me very busy and a little bit less time on the bank. Like I said, which makes it a little bit more difficult. You know, you put a lot of work in, you're not spending as much time. You hope to get what you're working for, and you know, kind of gets blown to hell. But with what I'm working on for the Canadian Carp Society, it's something that I think everybody will enjoy. So, for those of you out there that are members, this is put together by members for you. If you're not a member of the Canadian Carp Society, I know I say this a lot, but I mean it, and you know I'm wholeheartedly right in there because I really believe in what the Canadian Carp Society is doing for carp fishing in Canada. If you're not a member, join. It's not restricted to Canadians. It doesn't matter where in the world you are, you can be a member, and you can receive the same member benefits. You know, access to the articles, the videos, the competitions. When we do the SSF, you don't have to be in Canada. You know, put together a team. You can be anywhere. You know, if you're fishing a lake that has, you know, nothing but 40 pounders, you're probably going to win. Give it a shot. But the community is coming together very well. It's still growing. It's still incredibly positive, and it's a great place to interact with other carp anglers. It's nice to see that the Canadian carp scene is much bigger than a lot of us thought it was, and that's with just a small portion of those anglers actually in the community. Um, so yeah, doesn't matter where you are, you can be a member. Join up. It's worth it. Absolutely worth it. And there's adjustments being made to the site regularly to keep it in tip-top shape. Okay, catch rate has dropped from 30 fish a day to 10, but had a fish I've had 4 times at 18 pounds came in at 22 yesterday. Okay, so the temperature change has had an impact, but here you are getting a recapture 4 pounds bigger. So again, a good sign of proper fish care and catch and release and how much that works. So that's great to hear that you're having a recapture with improvement on that fish's well-being. Excellent. Muster Carp Tackle, the CCS, so Canadian Carp Society, has developed an amazing foundation to build on. I have enjoyed it thoroughly so far. Yeah, perfect statement right there. Can't emphasize that enough. So, like I said, it's worth joining. It's a great community with a lot of great information and a lot of stuff, like I said before, that I've kind of done on my own time away from what I'm doing with Anglophiles has been for Carp Society. So when you go in there and look at articles, there is a ton of articles from members of the community. I've done a few myself, but there's others in there, like there's an angler out of Hamilton that I speak to, and he's actually doing a weekly article. It's hard to keep up with it because he's cranking out so many, but it's good stuff. It's really fun to read. So, with the amount of content that's coming onto that site every single week, if you're not a member, you're missing out, plain and simple. Ben Battersby, Mr. Battersby's back. CCS blew up my catch rate compared to last summer. Not a single bad thing to say about it. Okay. I will take your statement, sir, and I'll make a slight adjustment to that. It's not the Canadian Carp Society that blew up your catch rate. That came from flat out effort. You and your brother have busted your butts. That's what blew up your catch rate. You guys worked for it and you earned it. What the CCS has done, I think, in this particular situation, is just help you have the confidence to know that you had people that you could talk to, interact with, and share that experience for those positive vibes that helped you work harder. But bottom line, the catch rate between you and your brother has gone skyrocketing because you guys have worked at it, plain and simple. Hi, John. It's Nick from the UK. Hi, Nick. How's it going? Just joined the conversation. I find that fish meal baits work better in the winter and sweet and fruity in the summer. Does that work where you are? Also, bright pop-ups only for clear water. So for us, in my experience particularly, I have found that the fruity baits tend to work pretty much all year, no matter what. Fish meals, I find, tend to work a little bit better when it's warmer as opposed to the cold. So I started using some fish meals back in March on one, before we had our 3-rod rule come into play, when we were still fishing with 1 rod. I used some fish meal baits and I was catching in the cold water still, but nowhere near what I was catching with the fruity baits. So I tried it again in some of the spots that I fished this summer, where I was kind of getting into tight little spots in the bush where I could only get 1 rod out. Well, if we're fishing with 3 rods, our rules state that we're not allowed to use fish meal baits. We have to use plant-based baits with, plant flavors. So I can't use a fish meal if I'm running 3 rods. But when I'm into some of those tight little spots where I'm fishing 1 rod, just to kind of get it through an opening in the trees or in the bushes, then I was taking advantage of trying to use some fish meal baits, and I did not do anywhere near as well in the warm water as I did with the fruity baits. So hopefully that answers that question. You're saying bright pop-ups only for clear water. Yes and no. I find when it's cold, absolutely. If it's cold, clear, like crystal clear water in the cold, bright baits. Um, through the summertime, I naturally, as we're using 3 rods, I have bright baits on, but I also try to use some dulled down baits or some darker baits. And at least for this season, because I did so much experimenting, now that we can use 3 rods, and that I was changing up tactics, trying more wafters and bottom baits, um, I found that bright baits versus dull colored baits actually were about equal through the course of the season. For me, it came down to whether or not they were popped up or closer to the deck. Um, I found flat out that pop ups were not performing as well as wafters and bottom baits this season for me. Uh, Lots of fish activity around the pop ups. The fish were still there and still interested, but yeah, the pop ups did not do as well as they normally do for me, or maybe they did exactly the same, and I just found that bottom baits and wafters actually made that jump for me. Um, Definitely for murky water, I try to use the brightest baits possible. Clear water, I try to dull them down a bit, but it having a different one on each rod all through the season, I didn't find that to really be needed. I was catching just as well on the dull baits. 334 outdoors. The pinker, the better here. Pink, the last probably 3 seasons has done incredibly well for me. This year, pink did really well for about the first half, and then virtually nothing for the last half. Um, Probably once we got into August, September, pink was not doing anywhere near as well for me. Then when we went up and did our big trip up to Long Sault for the YouTubers social, all my bait, every bite that I had came onto a chod rig with a pink pop up. That's all I caught on that weekend. So, yeah, pink has definitely earned a place in my arsenal a lot more than it used to. But it seems to be hit or miss whether it's going to outdo yellow or not. 4130 cycling, big baits for big fish. I am a huge big bait fan. I love using big baits, and I do agree that big baits definitely work for big fish, if for no other reason than to rule out the ability for a small fish to take it. But one thing I did do this spring, this would have been April, I think, fishing with Kevin. I had, because we ran, it was just, it was like a month and a half. So maybe early April, mid April. We had 3 rods out. I had 2 rods with huge baits on. Well, one with a huge bait, one with a normally large bait, like 18 mil. Then I had 1 rod with a 12 mil bait. I had 1 fish after like 4 hours. It was 28 pounds. It came to the 12 mil bait. Now, with that said, 10 minutes before that, I had a run on the 32 mil bottom bait that I had on the other rod that was just a joke to put out. Like, I want to use a big bait. I'm going to get a big fish. I'm only there for big fish. Got my big fish on the tiniest bait. So, big fish will pick up anything. It's a matter of how much you can rule out the small ones, I guess. No matter the water from gas station coffee to Bell Clear, pink. Yeah, doesn't matter for me either. Murky water or clear, pink has definitely been impressing me. Sorry, do you think big boilies help target bigger fish? I don't think it targets them. I think if anything, it just stops the small ones. So I think using the bigger baits, you just catch less, but they typically end up to be bigger. I'm somebody that really likes to catch as many as I can get. So I don't really present myself an opportunity to blank just to try and get one big fish. And why bother? Now that I can use 3 rods, I can always have one out to try and have that one getting the consistent bites with the smaller bait. And if I want to have a big bait to target a bigger fish, I can have that as well. So that's what I've been doing. Sometimes the big baits are what's producing the big fish. Sometimes it's the small baits. It's hit or miss. But what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'm catching consistently while I'm experimenting and making those efforts to try and get something bigger. I'm still using small stuff to try and keep catching. So I don't think the big baits will target bigger fish. I think they just rule out the small ones. I think they just make you catch less overall. Wayne Smith, pop-ups, 14 mil or 10 mil? 14 for me, and 18s. I do like 18 mil pop-ups. Typically in the spring when the fish are a little bit more voracious before and after spawn, I like to use the bigger pop-ups. 14 mil is pretty much my go-to, whether it be bottom bait, wafter, or pop-up. I try to stick with 14. Every now and then, though, like I said, I will have one rod where I'll put out a 12. Just something small, just to have that difference. And sometimes you can have. I actually tried this at one point. I had a pineapple bottom bait, a pineapple pop-up, both 14 mils, and then I had a pineapple pop-up in 12 mil, and that one did all the bites that day. So it's hard to say. Sometimes just being able to have that difference, but 14 mil is a good middle of the road. That's kind of what I like to stick with. My 2 smallest fish of the year came to twin 20 mils. Wow. That's impressive. It's also really, really funny. Ben Battersby, 14 mil works great for me. The little guys can still grab it, but my top 3 fish have come on 14 mil combo. Perfect. Hard cheese. Salmon oil works really well. Summertime in the UK, it will spook the Canadian carp with the amount of salmon in your waters. I don't think it spooks them, to be honest with you, because our carp are predators. They will, like, obviously we all know that, Pacific salmon die off after their spawn, and with our Great Lakes, they have Pacific salmon stocked in there for a put and take fishery. So when you get into our river system, like the Niagara River, or some of the creeks like Bronny Creek, Credit River, and when you go up there and you see those dead salmon in November, December, after they've spawned, there are still active carp feeding around those carcasses that are in the water, because it's a lot of food that's coming off of that. So I don't find that salmon oil would spook them here. We've had the ability to use that with our bait mixes the last few years. I don't think it spooks them at all. It's just another food source, gets them interested. I do find overall that oily baits tend to slow your catch rate if they're really oily, but I don't think the scent of it actually being salmon oil makes the difference. I think they're actually interested in it. Monster Carp Tackle, the CCS 1 versus 1 challenge forced me to think differently and target bigger fish, and it was fun. Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did make a change. That challenge series was incredible. It was so much fun. And to see your performance, to know you were up against that one angler that everybody was afraid to be up against, given that he has an amazing ability to catch big fish consistently. You gave him a serious run for his money. What are you doing? Get in your blanket. Oh, give me a second. Sit down. Give me a blanket. She couldn't get into her blanket. The pillow was kind of over it, and it was in her way. Yeah, Dave, man, your ability to produce those big fish, that was something else. What's in the brown paper bag to your left? That's the remnants of my dinner last night. I just haven't put it away yet. Let me just put that where Wayne's not going to see it, because that's going to bother him. Now, if you're looking at this is something. I don't know if I can hold it up enough for you to be able to see it, though. Wayne has already seen it. So one of the cool things about the Canadian Carp Society community is that we're sharing photos and having a lot of positive interaction. And there was a particular photo, and you can probably go back and see it on social media. I think it's been put up on the website. It's been put up on Instagram and stuff like that. One of the members, Harry, took an incredible carp photo, releasing a carp. It just, everything about this photo spoke to me, just in an artistic way, as an angler. It was just incredible. The shapes, you got the roundness of the carp scales, the roundness of the pebbles in the water, the roundness of the rings where the raindrops are hitting the water. You've got this almost monochromatic feel, the browns and yellow tones on the carp matching the brown and yellow tones on the gravel and sand in the bottom, then the reflection in the water where the ripples are, how you get some of that color repeated up into the shimmer of the water. By far the most incredible carp photo I've ever seen. Like I said, it just spoke to me. And I messaged Harry right away. I'm like, I want that picture on my wall. And a few days later, he emailed me a high resolution copy of the photo. So you can tell that my studio is a disaster. I need to kind of move some of my art stuff out of the way to make room more for the fishing aspect and the editing and stuff like that I'm doing. But this photo is going to be, I'm getting messages, and I think the dog knows that my lunch just arrived, and she's trying to get up there for it, and I can't stop her from barking. So now she's out of her blanket up there sniffing around the door for food. Anyway, this particular photo, I sent off to a website that I've been getting things done. Will you stop, please? I've been getting some things done from them, some mugs and such. The YouTuber social mugs that we had done for the event. That website did them. And they also do canvas prints. And I thought, you know what? I would love to see this photo big on canvas so that I can actually put it up on my wall. Now, I could have gone larger, but I didn't. I showed some restraint. But this photo, just like I said, artistically, as an angler, it spoke to me in so many ways. How can I get the reflection? Can you see that? The shapes, the colors, just everything about this photo is just absolutely incredible. Harry did an amazing job just capturing this moment, and it blew me away. And then when he sent me a copy of the image so that I could do this and get it blown up, with the statement, show it to me when it's on your wall. Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I had to get it done. So this will have a prominent place on the wall once I get everything kind of restructured in here. And it'll even go well with the brown tones of the wood on my walls. But like, just looking at that right there just brings up so much emotion of like, what's our favorite part? Yes, we love to catch fish. Yes, we love to see them. But that moment of release when we're letting that fish back is captured right here. You know, it's just incredible. And so, yeah, I got that done up, and that will go on the wall. That's special. That's very special. He did an amazing job capturing that moment in time, but also capturing that emotion of, the fish being released back into its home, and just everything about it was right. The light, the color, the shapes, just incredible. So yeah, it absolutely blew me away. So that's what that is. Not a whole lot of other stuff going on. Haven't had any new items. As I mentioned, new items. Wayne, are you going to buy that fancy cutlery set? Technically, I believe I'm on what my wife refers to as blackout time, where because Christmas is coming up, as is my birthday in like 4 weeks, I'm not actually allowed to buy anything. So I have to wait till after the holidays before I can buy stuff. So we'll see. It's on my list. It could have been the whole wall. Restraint is bad. Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm moving my efforts for the rest of the year to a cooler water, spring-fed Cypress Lake. It's the southernmost place in the U.S. you can catch perch, but I have no idea where to start. No help from the locals. Well, I guess you're going to have to just bust your ass and figure it out. But think of the reward that's going to come with that effort, right? Definitely give it a try and definitely keep us posted. Now, I don't know if I've shown you guys this yet, but I probably should. I need to actually, let's see here. I gotta look this up here for a second and see if I can find the name. It might be on my phone. The name of the company that made these items before I show them to you. Let's see here. This wasn't on my list. This is something I just remembered that I had to bring up, and so I'm not prepared. Let's see here. There it is. Okay. When you guys have the chance, okay, speaking of, art and great imagery and things like that, there is a page on Instagram called Prairie 49 Creations. So it's the word prairie, the number 49, and then the word creations. Probably backwards and out of focus, so I'm probably just wasting my time doing that. If you look up Prairie 49 Creations on Instagram, you're going to see a lot of really cool items. So like laser engraving on mugs and water bottles, all kinds of different things. Really, really cool stuff. It's a Prairie 49 Creations is a veteran-owned laser crafting business. They provide laser cut and engraving crafts, which can be personalized for anyone and any occasion. They're based out of Manitoba. The reason I bring them up is I had them to the side, so I forgot about this. To go back to the YouTuber social. If you did see the video, you will see that we did mention very briefly that the whole plan was big fish prize. So whoever caught the biggest fish over the course of the weekend would get a trophy of sorts. Well, it turns out that Prairie 49 Creations is the brother of Nathan from Improved Carp Angling. So Nathan had this done. This is, in fact, if I haven't shown it to you yet, I just can't keep track of what I've done half the time. But this particular item, now I don't know if the words are backwards for you, but it says Canadian YouTube Blogger Social winner 2021, because I was lucky enough to have the biggest fish of the weekend, that 22-pounder. Caught on a chod rig with a pink pop-up, 14 mil. So it's just this thin piece of wood, but a carp perfectly laser engraved with the raised maple leaf right there. And it looks stunning, and I can't wait to get this up on the wall as well. But this was the trophy for catching the big fish of that social. And I'm really hoping we can do something similar to that with Prairie 49 Creations for next year's as well. But on top of that, just as I gave a little gift to the anglers that were there in forms of a mug, Nathan and Prairie 49 Creations were kind enough to actually do little kind of carabiners with these wooden keychain type ornaments. That's probably not in focus there, but it's the same fish, all laser cut and laser engraved in there. And all of us had our respective YouTube channel name on them, and all of us received those. So it was really, really cool. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna type it in the chat so you guys can see how that name is, and look it up yourselves. Because if you want something like that done, give them some contact. Okay, so I just put it in there. That's how you're going to find it on Instagram. Prairie 49 Creations, all one word, with the 49 being the number in the middle. Oh, hang on. spelled it wrong. Prairie has an extra I in it that I missed. Okay, so ignore my spelling error. Look at the second one. That's the accurate one. The spelling error, you probably still find it on there on Instagram, but yeah, check them out. If you're looking for stuff to be done like that, clearly they have the ability to do it. So give them a shout. How are we for time? Just over an hour at this point. My lunch has arrived. My dog is being a turd. I don't have your treats. The only thing I have in front of me is Tim Tams, and I'm not sharing those. I do appreciate all of you tuning in again for November. You know, it's always great to see you guys in here. A little bit more interaction from a few others we haven't seen very often. So I'm happy you're all there. And thank you for joining in. Is there anything you guys want to touch on or address or chat about before I wrap this up? Because as much fun as I love doing this, I'm hungry and I got food upstairs and I want to eat it. Hopefully, for those of you that do still fish into the winter and into the remaining cold part of the season, yeah, hopefully you guys will do well. Hopefully you'll have some of those special captures that'll kind of have that memory stay with you and carry you through the winter until the spring starts up again. Because as I said, for us, you know, here in Southern Ontario, we had snow this morning. I know some of the guys further north of us have had a fair bit of snow already. Any plans for steelhead this season? Yes. I have booked off 2 days in December, 2 weekdays, so that I can avoid the weekend crowd to do some steelhead fishing. One of those days, I'm probably going to try and do a winter carp session, possibly, just to kind of wrap up the Christmas season and the end of the year, as I typically do. But definitely no less than 1 day is going to be spent steelhead fishing coming up very soon. Right now, I'm just waiting for lake trout season to open because I like being able to hit lakers while I'm fishing steelhead. And yeah, lake trout's closed until the end of the month. So once December hits, lake trout opens, yeah, definitely hoping to spend some more time on the river this winter. I think I did 1 or 2 sessions on the river last year and I don't think I caught last year. I think I had a steelhead the year before for my birthday session, and that was it. So steelhead is in the cards. That gear is put aside and almost ready to go. So yeah, I just got to patch up my waders. I kind of put them through the mill this season. Catch and cook one. I'll be honest with you, I'm not really one for eating fish much anymore. So I don't know if I'll do that. Hard cheese. Subscribe to your channel and enjoy your lunch. Well, thank you, and thank you. And thank you for tuning in and participating. I really appreciate the interaction. That's why we do the live streams, so we can have a chance to chat back and forth. I have to say, this is the more exciting part of what we do on the channel, being able to do these live streams and interact. Sometimes on the bank, sometimes in my disaster of a studio. But yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, steelhead's coming. So yeah, hopefully I can get 1 or 2 videos done this winter going after some steelhead. I have a couple of things I want to try. I've really gotten to enjoy the bead fishing the last few seasons. I thought a bit through the summer about a different way to present beads, and I'm going to try it. And hopefully that will improve my catch rate with them, because I get a lot of bites fishing beads, but I don't typically land them. So I want to try and up that catch rate with beads. All right, just over an hour and 9 minutes. What else we got here? Chucking spoons for steelhead in the morning. Good for you, giver. Hopefully you do well. Given the time of year we're at, hopefully there's some browns moving around. It'd be nice to get into some of them right around now too. But yeah, I'm gonna go eat. because I haven't eaten yet today. I think I had one Tim Tam with my coffee and wasn't enough. So besides having one cookie, I've eaten Tylenol. That's it. So I'm going to go get some food. I am going to cuddle with the dog. Right? We're going to watch some TV. Some new Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus. New thing about Boba Fett. Super excited to watch that. So I'm going to probably watch that this afternoon with the dog because she loves Star Wars too. Will you be doing a center pin 3 session with Dave soon? I'm assuming you mean for carp. It was in the cards for this season. We couldn't put together the time to do the center pin for carp this season. Instead, we went and started fishing that spot we called Pine Point, which you would have already seen one episode for earlier in the year. We did 2 more videos from Pine Point. That kind of took the place of the center pin video for carp. That's probably not going to happen until next season, but it's on the cards. The question is, do we just go and do 1 rod each as we did before with the center pins, or do we open up a can of worms and create chaos by each fishing 3 rods with center pins? Because what happens if you get a double or a triple run on center pins? It's not like you can stop it with the drag. Can't really fish locked up. Do we invite chaos by doing that, or what? I have to talk to Dave about that. But I think our chances for a center pin session for carp this year is pretty much over, given that our schedules are really tough to line up. Certainly, I'll be using the center pin when I get out for trout, absolutely. But I think we're probably going to be waiting until spring or summer next year to do another proper center pin video for carp. And yeah, we'll think of something to make that interesting. 2 rods each with a center pin, 3, not sure, but it's going to be insane. Monster Carp Tackle, Dave, looking forward to the birthday trip. Yes, hopefully we can put the time together. I've already spoken to another YouTuber to see if he wants to join us for the birthday trip. I just have to give him the date, and he will come down and fish with us so we could have a few of us ready to go on the birthday session, and hopefully we can get into some trout. Hi, Daddy, I'm watching you. My son has hijacked my wife's YouTube channel and is now watching me. Hopefully he's not gotten into my food, because he's a growing boy, and I swear he's developing a hollow leg, because some days I don't know where he puts the food. Some days he eats more than I can. Seriously, the other day, guys, you're not going to believe this. My 10-year-old son, last Sunday, ate an entire pizza to himself. I made it through 4 slices. Look at the size of me. Okay, I made it through 4 slices. My son ate an entire pizza himself. I don't know what's going on. I swear, at 10 years old, I think he's already a teenager. He's gonna be stashing food in his room next thing you know, just so he can keep eating. It's gonna be nuts. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for interacting. Again, I really appreciate it. I love to see new faces in there. Love to see the perspectives and the different ideas that you guys had. Next year, I'm hoping can be just as incredible as this year. And yeah, we'll be back for a live stream in December. What I'm still trying to determine, though, is if I'll be on the bank or not, because the live stream actually falls on my birthday. So the second Saturday in December will be the December/birthday live stream, even though we're going to go out and do a birthday session probably the day before. Yeah, we're going to celebrate my birthday on the live stream, whether I'm from the bank or whether I'm here. But hopefully we'll have lots to talk about. We'll be talking about carp as usual, probably talking about some trout, because I'll be into trout mode at that point. And probably just going over plans for next season, ideas of, what people are hoping to get for the holidays as far as new gear goes over the winter and the holidays. Yeah, December's live stream should be fun. We will see you then. Thank you so much for tuning in, continuing to follow us. Thank you so much for supporting the channel the way you guys do. I I really appreciate it. Please get out there, share with your friends, get everybody else watching. Let's turn this core group that we've got right here in the chat section into an even bigger group. Let's get more interaction. You know, I can't thank you enough for your involvement. With that said, I am hungry. The dog wants to go watch Boba Fett from Star Wars, so we're going to go do that, and we will see you in December.